Welcome back everybody to my second half of my office transformation video. If you haven't seen part 1, I left a link in the video description. Right now we're looking at an LED light strip that I want to attach to the bottom of this floating shelf. I want to first make sure that I have a pathway to hide the wiring and have an idea of where to put the on-off button. Also, I don't want to simply just slap it onto the bottom of the shelf. I want to kind of cut out a groove so it looks nice and hidden and you can't really tell when you're looking at it. Since I don't have a router, this can still be done using a table saw. I simply adjusted the blade low and carefully made a few cuts while adjusting the support arm. Like so. Voila. Then at one end I carefully drilled a hole to pull the light strip through. After sanding down the floating shelf, the next step was to stain it. I used a maple brown transparent stain, which looks very nice. Once dried, I attached the LED light strip to the floating shelf and pulled the wiring through. I cut out a small groove in the drywall so it's flush with the wall. It's going to be hidden with a panel, so I'm not worried about what it looks like right now. Let's give it a nice test here, and it looks pretty nice, better than I imagined. So the shelf is pretty much ready to go, now it's time to finish off the table. Give it a nice sand here. Also, I used the same maple brown stain for the table as well. Got some help from my lovely wife. We always know how to meet each other in the middle. Moving on to the cabinet doors, I decided to use the remaining half-inch plywood that I had and use this 1/4 inch as a border trim. This will make a 3/4 inch thickness so I'll have room to drill in for the hinges. Here's what it looks like when the edges are attached, and now it's time to use a hinge jig to drill a hole for each hinge. I set this tool to 3mm, which is according to the instructions of the hinges. These hinges should have a 1/2 inch overlay. Now before I sand everything down smooth, I want to hang the door up and test the fitment. I'm going to put a couple of shims under the door, about a 1/4 inch, and drill the holes to attach the door. Now comes the moment of truth to see how they fit. Oh yeah, everything looks precise. Gotta love that soft close. After ensuring everything fit well, I took off the doors and it's time to sand everything down. I want to make sure all the edges and everything is very smooth and flush before I stain it. I'm using the same stain, the maple brown, for all the 3 elements, the cabinet doors, the floating shelf, and the table. It should look pretty nice. While I was busy with cabinet doors, my wife got started painting the storage wall. We went with this really dark gray color, almost looks black. I really think that the stained wood and the dark background gives nice contrast. Almost forgot to mention that I added magnetic push latches to these doors. Still having mixed feelings about them, but I can go over that into more detail in another video. Next up, I started adding this 1/4 inch plywood all across the wall. This will set the background for the fluted slats I plan to add later. I made sure to nail the plywood into the studs of the wall to make sure it's secure. Also, I did leave this small area accessible in case something goes wrong or I need to access the wire through the LED light strip, just in case if I need to change it in the future. Now this was an absolute game changer. I was able to borrow a track saw from my neighbor and this made my life so much easier. Perfectly straight cuts and easy to adjust. Definitely saved a lot of time by using this. This was the most repetitive process of the whole project. I had to cut out about 52 slats that I'm going to use for the wall to decorate. These slats are 1.5 inches wide, a 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to have a spacer of about 1 inch between them. Here is where I started to attach the individual slats to the wall. I used wood glue and nailed them in with a nail gun. I made a 1 inch spacer as a guide between each slat. 2 or 3 at a time, I would check the level to make sure everything is straight. After I gained a bunch of momentum doing this, I realized I should have painted the wall before attaching these. So I stopped there and painted the wall. It does look a little weird now, but the finished result will be amazing. Once the slats were attached, the next step was to cover up any of the holes made by the nail gun. I took the simple route and I used wood glue and sawdust to fill the holes. Then sanded down each hole. I used this multi-tool attachment as a sander, really easy to use. After everything was sanded down, I used thin cardboard to prep for paint. Didn't get the painting process on film, but I think that's no big deal. Next up is cable management. I hate having wires and cables running all over the table. It doesn't look very clean and aesthetic. So what I like to do is take one of these and I'll drill a hole in the table, and this way I can pass the wires through under the table and hide them. I ended up adding 3 of these, one on each side, one in the center to hide the wires for the monitor. Just testing out the LED light strip here, and now ready for the final result. This is how the room looks, completely bare bones. I plan to upload another video when I bring my stuff back in and furnish the room. Let me know what you guys think of this transformation in the comments. If you find this video interesting, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.